Good afternoon. I've got the beautiful 5 o'clock slot. Hangovers are all gone. Cigars are all fully digested, I'm sure, from last night. Thank you for joining me, guys. I'm going to do a little bit of presentation, about 25 minutes, probably more like 20 minutes on managed services and how to pick your managed services partner. This is my first and last presentation of the day, thank God. And I hate staring at my own picture. So I'm with a company called IDMWORKS. My name is Bedi. There's a bunch of us running around here. We've done a bunch of presentations today. Look, the point of my presentation is really to walk you through what managed services provider qualities look like, because a lot of you have managed services providers currently running your IAM infrastructure. If I can get a show of hands, anybody have MSPs working for them today? Only a couple, okay. Oh, you do too? Fantastic. So I'm going to skip the shameless promotion slides. Real quick, why do I have the privilege of being up here with you guys? Is because we've been doing this for a really long time at IDMWORKS, right? We've seen a lot of the permutations, combinations, changes in vendors, changes in profiles, changes in people, and just the evolution of this market space. So given all of that history that we've been steeped in and a bunch of successful engagements, we actually know what this should look like. God forbid, right? We've done a ton of implementation, so we've seen the good, bad, the ugly, as you have all seen them. Lots of different reference customers, and a really bad fadeaway slide, and just various industries. So the beauty of it is no two customers, no two industries look the same. And so your job, and I'm going to go through three distinct models here. One is the challenge. How do you scale to whatever the company needs are? How do you pick an MSP? Do you pick an ITO, right? An IT outsourcer, typically based in a different country, or do you pick a boutique vendor? Which one's right for you? And then the third, what we believe and what I believe are the recipes, the keys, and the ingredients to succeed with a managed service partner. So first of all, the challenges. Applications are changing at light speed, right? Salesforce is releasing on a weekly basis, monthly basis. All of the applications that you deal with within your enterprise are changing at light speed. The only thing that really doesn't change is the mainframe, and not a lot of you have those. And if you do, thank God they don't change, because that's just one less thing for us to worry about. The second thing is regulations are changing on a daily basis, right? We're going state by state, country by country, federal, local, everything changes every single day. And if you heard Todd's presentation earlier, they're guidelines. And so the guidelines change and they evolve. So our job is to follow those guidelines. And so that's part of our IAM challenge. Third, the scale of your organization changes on a regular basis. A lot of folks are going through M&A. There's a lot of consolidation in our industry. So we've got to make sure that we can keep up with all of those changes in our organizations. And fourth, figuring out which vendors to use. Have you been upstairs to the expo hall? Right? Everybody's been up to that expo hall. There are so many vendors up there. It's impossible to know who does what well and when and why. So that's the IAM challenge that we're here to address with an MSP solution. Second, the MSP models and providers. Customers don't know which MSP to use, right? So some use the IT outsourcers, some use boutique firms, some use a combination of both, and some use their internal staff plus an IT outsourcer plus a boutique firm. And you're not really sure which to use, and I don't think that there's a right answer or a wrong answer. The only wrong answer that's out there is the one that doesn't work, right? It's where your SLA for L1 requests goes from 4 hours to 14 hours. That's not the right solution, I would say. Second, our requirements are constantly in flux. So let's just take, for example, today, you're doing user lifecycle provisioning and SSO, and that's what you hire your MSP for. Well, tomorrow, obviously, your business is not staying still. You're going to introduce more products and more complexity into your environment. But can your MSP handle that? Right? So our requirements are constantly changing. You have to make sure that you have the right partner that can evolve with you or add or enhance or change your partner, which is expensive as well. And then also, where I've seen a lot of MSPs fail is the integrations. And so we take a look at user lifecycle management, access management, and then you want to bolt on other technologies. Typically, our MSP partners cannot do those integrations for you, and they can't support those integrations. And that's what's worse, I would say. So just thinking about that, it's not the individual product support that your MSP needs to support. It's actually those complicated integrations that they must support in addition to those products to be able to provide that quality of service for your businesses. And then the last piece we're going to talk about is the success ingredients. The right steps in finding the right MSP for your organization. So, all right, fancy slide. IAM Challenges. If you stayed here for the last presentation, you would have seen this slide. So, it's sort of a half empty, half full paradigm here. We say 75% of these projects deliver less than what's expected. How many of you have done a roadmap or have a 3-year or 5-year or 2-year plan for your IAM program, right? And have you executed 100% of those programs? At least 75%, that's the right answer. That's good, because that the slide supports that. But the reality is what happens is we do a roadmap. Our business evolves, and then our roadmap needs to change, but nobody updates their roadmap, okay? But the business expectation, what you used to get funding, was A, B, C, D, E, right? You told your business, the reason I'm doing this is to get the following justification, or the following funding, and I'm going to deliver X, Y, Z, and then your business changes, and you no longer deliver what was on your roadmap because your business changed. Complicated. We also find that business priorities shift. And so today, you're working on your internal user lifecycle management project, and it's going well. You're doing integrations, you're adding applications. Then all of a sudden, your business comes to you and says, hey, listen, we need to go do the consumer IAM piece. And so you have to shelf what you're doing here, put it on hold, give it to an MSP to just run and go do something else. So this is another reason why you don't deliver fully on your IAM project roadmap. And the third is, and how many people have this problem, people leave the organization, the people that did the roadmap leave the organization, and so you no longer follow their roadmap because you're like, I didn't like that guy, or he got fired because he put together that really pathetic roadmap that we were following, right? So those are reasons why, or at least some of the reasons why some of these projects failed. All right. So I think it's important, and so this is what I want to convey to you. I think it's really important to have a solid IAM base, right? If not, in any enterprise organization with any amount of users, say 2,500 and up, you end up with shadow IT, and that's something we need to avoid, right? It's a catastrophe when we have shadow IT because then we can't put in a solid IAM system managed by one team that helps the entire organization. It's also not cost effective, right? So you're spending tons of money in all sorts of different silos of your organization to do the same thing, like user lifecycle management in different silos, totally cost ineffective. And then the thing you've set out to solve is what you end up failing again, which is your audits. So the auditors come back in, they look at all of your IT organization, and they say, you're doing different user lifecycle management policies here, here, and here, and they fail you on your audit. So the very thing that we set out to solve with identity and access management, we end up failing. And that causes harm to the organization, and I'm sure you've heard this time and time again. What we're trying to keep away from are the reputational harm that's done by some sort of a hack or somebody coming into your organization or compromising an account. And by creating all of this shadow IT, we make ourselves more vulnerable to that. So solid background, solid base for IAM. And then second, the other reason why you need and why you should consider an MSP partner is because it's really complicated. So not all of these guys are here today, these vendors are here today with their technologies in the expo hall, but they sure may be in 2 years. I promise you that if they're still in business or they haven't been acquired, they'll be here at the expo hall. And how do you, as people in our industry's IAM experts today, navigate this landscape? What I've seen is these vendors are pretty awesome when they do their demo because they come in with perfect data and perfect scripts and run you through a demo of their product. Icons bounce around, not naming any names, beautiful charts come up, and they show you the perfect product deployment, and then you think to yourself, hey, I could really use that. But what you're not thinking about are the really complicated integrations that you need to make within your organizations to be able to have these actual applications function within your organization. So now think about this, just putting all of this on pause. Now your MSP, your trusted partner, has to come and support some of these products that you're going to bring in, whether they're one-off or integrated. So think about how complicated that really is, and think about the types of MSPs that are out there as we go through this and see if they can support that. All right, solution complexity. I think we've banged this one to death, right? The solutions are really complicated, and MSP really has to be skilled to be able to support it. We talk about cybersecurity support staff and people out there in the industry to be able to support these type of operations. You know, we've been in a number of situations, or I've been in a number of situations where a company has said to us, hey, I've got this IT outsourcer. I can get 60 people for the price of 3 of your IAM experts, so I'm bringing them all in. They're going to manage all of my IAM infrastructure. I think the AC just went off. I'm going to sweat up here. And you have to understand that those IT outsourcers, from our experience and from every engagement that I've ever been in, they don't have the requisite skills, right? They may have people that are certified, they might have a project or two under their belt, but they just don't have the ability to support your infrastructure and all of the IAM products that you have within your business. So I think it's really important for you to understand that, hey, while there's options like IT outsourcers to do MSP work, there's also options that are onshore, but the reality is, in total, what we've got to deal with is the fact that there's not a lot of talent in the market, right? So we really have to be picky about who we do business with and when we do business with those folks to make sure we're getting the right skill in our enterprise. All right, managed IAM services. Really cool graphic, has a lot of content behind it. So let's talk a little bit about what all of this is. And so my recommendations in trying to interpret this slide are just follow me as I walk through it. So the first thing is simplify vendor management. You want to really have an organization that has no vendor bias as your MSP. And the reason is because you need that neutrality so that they can ebb and flow with your business. And that's a really hard paradigm to say, because that vendor's got to be able to support the fact that they've got to continue to retrain their employees to be able to keep up with your organization. And they've got to be able to deliver tangible outcomes to your business. So they've got to be able to take what you're trying to do up here, planning with your business, and map those to IT capabilities within these IAM products that you're deploying, and be able to deliver that for you, right? So this is all in the light of an MSP. And they're the ones that are responsible for helping you get to a mature IAM program. So my argument here is that from the left-hand side of this, your MSP has to be the technical organization that can deliver IAM capabilities, IT business alignment, while you work on process and the people communicating to your organization what the IAM program is and helping evolve that and evaluate new technologies, and then also taking in new capabilities from your business, your CTO, CIO, et cetera. What I really like about the MSP piece is that you can optimize your investment. What does that mean? That means you only pay for what you're using, so you don't have to pay for capabilities in products and people that you're not really using. So your investment is somewhat covered. You also get to streamline your operations. So that means that you can have bench extenders from your MSP to help you deliver capabilities that you wouldn't otherwise be able to deliver yourself, and they can do that on an operational type of basis while you go hire experts like for new technologies that you're going to get and bring in-house. So MSP hosting models, and this is pretty straightforward. Andre talked about this in his keynote today. There's 3 really different hosting models, right? So we talk about the public cloud infrastructure, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. We talk about private cloud hosting, and we talk about hybrid. But the real issue is that we typically end up picking one of these three models. We don't go with all three or two of the three. And we really need to avoid what I call vendor lock-in. Because as Andre said, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, the number one mistake you can make is to be locked into one of these vendors. So today we have customers that come to us and ask us to help them move from Amazon, which is ridiculously expensive when you set it up right, globally, load balanced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, compared to a private data center, right? So don't lock yourself into a specific deployment model. Rather, consider a hybrid model, right? Some public, some private. All right, and key capabilities. So this is where we start to get into the success approach of key capabilities for your MSP. And I'm going to run out of time, unfortunately, but I'll try to talk fast. All right, so what type of services can be managed? A lot of folks come to me and ask me, hey, what can I actually get an MSP to do? And I would argue that if you've seen the jellyfish slide that Todd's put up there a couple times and talked about, all of that can be managed by your MSP. So there's no limit to what an MSP can manage, but you have to evaluate them correctly to make sure that they can do that. And they should be able to support those complicated integrations that we talk about. And then they have to be able to do it in a secure fashion. So whatever MSP you choose, it has to have all of the certifications and compliance certifications that your organization needs. So if you need SOC 1 Type 2, or you need HIPAA or PCI certifications in the cloud from your MSP, make sure that you don't just take their word for it. You actually certify that infrastructure by using a third party to do that. And then third, make sure that you don't impact your end user experience. So a lot of MSPs we've found will bring in multiple vendor solutions, but then you see 5 or 6 different GUIs. And so my ask of you is to make sure that you have one seamless GUI for your end users to use, and don't impact your users by presenting 5 or 6 different vendor products through 6 or 7 different GUIs. And some of this I get is not achievable today, but I think this is something that we have to strive for. So critical partner qualities. Don't choose, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here. Don't choose your L1 ITO or your L1 vendor that's doing help desk support today to run your identity and access management suite. It's just not going to happen. They're just not going to do a great job with it. 2, make sure that they have the experience and the expertise. Right? IAM is a complicated field. People are really hard to find. Make sure you evaluate correctly your IAM partner, your MSP partner, for what they can do for you. And then third, always make sure that they have the base level certifications, they have a great reputation, and call on similar customers. So if you're in manufacturing, get a manufacturing reference from these folks to make sure that they've supported an IAM infrastructure with a manufacturing client. And you call those folks and make sure that they have the right references and that they've done this type of support before. See, I knew I'd get through it if I talked fast. All right, so the last slide, MSP Success. And so we'll just talk a little bit about this. And this is the slide to really think about. This is the take-home slide. The first thing is define your identity needs. And how do you do that? If you don't know what you don't know, how do you define your needs? Any suggestions? No? Matt, laughing in the back, I like it. Analyst publications, right? Can you trust the analysts? I think so, somewhat. Resources on the web. Everybody can just Google it, right? You can Google your requirements, figure it out. Maybe that'll work. Third, maybe use your trusted advisor or partner, or ask somebody from upstairs in the expo hall. Ask them how to evaluate what your identity needs are in terms of MSP. And then plan for the future. We talked about roadmap. You gentlemen back there have done a roadmap. Do you have an MSP roadmap for hiring an MSP partner? I think that's really important to define your roadmap. And that means taking where you are today, where you want to go tomorrow with an MSP, and identifying that gap and filling that gap, and actually making that your requirements to evaluate when you're interviewing MSPs. The evaluation criteria, a lot of folks a lot of the CIOs that we work with and CISOs that we work with, the first thing that they look at is cost. And so they send out an RFP, basic questions, can you support A, B, C, D, E, and what's your price? Price should not be your driver. You should throw price out the window and make sure that they can support your capabilities first and foremost. And then align your requirements against the MSP offering. We talked about this a little bit, about looking at the current state, future state, and the gap. So this is the tough part, which is aligning the RACI matrix. A lot of folks don't know what a RACI matrix is. This is where you get your PMs involved and you get them to tell you what a RACI matrix is. But essentially, you want to take all of the duties that you would expect from an operations firm and map those out very clearly when evaluating a MSP. So things like patching your operating system, not just your identity and access management solution, management of the infrastructure, the operating system, any dependent applications, Java versions, those type of things. You know, you have to get very specific, because what I tend to see in MSP evaluation, and then when you sign on your MSP, is you get change ordered to death, right? So it's very important to lay out this very detailed RACI matrix, which nobody really has done really well in this market, to be able to say, hey, vendor, are you going to do this, and is this part of your proposal or not? And then understand the end-to-end process. So now you do a day in the life, right? What's the day in the life of an end user who puts in a help desk ticket? Really basic, right? That's a user story that we've looked at. But take your more extensive and complicated scenarios and user stories and run that through the MSP story to figure out what you're going to do versus what your MSP is going to do. I think that's really important to do. Otherwise, you'll miss, and or at least you'll identify your gaps at that point. And then last but not least, you've got to integrate to operations. And so if you've got other operations teams, which I'm sure you do in large organizations, you want to make sure that your MSP can actually be integrated with your operations teams, right? Without that, you've got another silo, an IAM silo out there. And I think that methodology is really important. So that's it for our 7 steps to success. 2 minutes, 28 seconds left, and I can take a few questions, or we can all go to the Spy Museum. Questions? No? Perfect. Thank you.